Hi guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Mia's Talks. You may be wondering how this is different from any other Teen Talk Central episode, so let me explain to you guys. The whole point of Mia's Talks is to learn more about who I am and who you guys are outside of the realm of just mental health. Obviously, at the end of the day, this is still under the TTC fam, and TTC is still meant to be focused on mental health and issues that us teenagers can relate to. But I also wanted to open it up to have more conversations based around what we can do to grow ourselves and kind of things not just including mental health, such as college. I know college is a very sensitive topic for some seniors right now, but stuff like that I want to be able to discuss a bit more and have a bit of a longer talk. Usually I try to keep my podcast episodes between 10 maybe 12 minutes because I know that not everyone has a long attention span. But if you are here and you clicked on this video, you are probably more ready to do a longer conversation, which is something that I've been looking and wanting to do, and I feel like face-to-face kind of video style would have been a little bit more suitable than a podcast episode. So, without further ado, let's get started with the first ever Mia's Talk. Okay guys, so this week's Mia's Talk is going to be based off of New Year's kind of resolutions in what I have learned in the past about year of having this podcast, and also just things that I've learned in general throughout the past year and lessons that I want to take in. We're going to have 10 things, and I have a list on my computer, which is why I'm going to be looking down sometimes. So without further ado, let's get started with the first lesson. Okay guys, so the first lesson I want to give is that people want honesty, not perfection. I think there is this idea that we have to be perfect from the first day or the first impression. And obviously first impressions matter a lot, but people would rather see the true and honest you than someone who's kind of fake, or this character that you've kind of made that you think is what people want to see. I feel like on social media a lot of the time we see these like social media influencers, these TikTokers, and they're like super outgoing and super lighthearted, and you know, they seem like the ideal person, but then you actually don't know what goes on behind the scenes, because I think it's more impactful to someone when they can see the honest and true you and they're able to relate, because obviously nobody's perfect, right? I think that's something that people sometimes get confused with. They're like, I am perfect. And yes, there could be certain things or certain qualities and traits that are super good about you, but everyone has their flaws, and it's okay to accept that, and that creates honesty. And I think honesty is a lot more valuable. And personally, I relate to this because I feel like with friendships, I've learned that I would rather have an honest friendship that has a lot of, not a lot, I should rephrase, that has some up and downs, rather than something that's perfect, just because no one wants to have conflict because each side is perfect, which is, again, not a real thing. And I think that teens connect to more truthful people than people who are not truthful, especially because right now a lot of people are changing and adapting, and it's fine to kind of outgrow people, but you have to be honest with yourself and honest with that person and see if you guys are still in the same place. Okay, advice lesson number 2 is that mental health isn't about fixing, it's about understanding. I feel like a lot of time when we hear someone has some mental, emotional, quote-unquote disorder, there's this need that you have to fix it and you have to take it out of their life. And I think you can't solve emotions for people. I think there's this boundary that you can't really cross, and it's more about understanding the person and seeing what you can do to try to help and make their life easier. I think, for example, if we take depression, right? A lot of people are like, oh, you're depressed, we have to take out whatever's making you depressed and you're automatically going to be fixed like that. And that is just absolutely not the case. It's more about understanding, okay, this is what is causing you these, you know, depressive episodes. Now, what can I do to help you minimize them? And then potentially later on kind of completely eradicate or get rid of this kind of depression that you're facing. And I think there's this idea of shifting it from here's what I need to do to here's why this feels so hard. I think a lot of the time there's this idea that you have to kind of fix, but it's more, slowly understanding, which will naturally fix itself, right? And I think you have to learn to validate yourself and validate your own emotions before you're just given the tools to fix yourself, right? So, for example, even if you go to therapy, a therapist is not just going to prescribe you, or actually, not even a therapist. If you go to a psychiatrist, right, and you sit down and you explain your problems, some psychiatrists might just give you meds and be like, okay, this is going to fix all your problems. But it's really not fixing the problems that's going to get rid of them. You actually have to understand what the deep rooted cause is. And then from there, you can slowly and surely fix your kind of issues that you're having. And I've kind of thought about this in the way that if I can't understand the deep issues, I shouldn't be jumping to the final solution or to the final method, because I don't even know if that's actually kind of what's causing certain anxieties or certain fears unless I reflect. And I think journaling and reflection is really, really important when it comes to something like this, because you can kind of look back and see, okay, this is what could potentially be causing this feeling, and then you're able to narrow down and understand yourself. So remember, you should understand, not just try to fix. Okay, next one. I feel like this one is a bit harsher, but growth also means letting go. I think we've talked about this so much. My top played episode of the year was about how friendships grow apart. And there's this really strong idea that I'm such a huge believer in, that people come into your life for a reason and for a certain amount of time, and they leave once they have fulfilled that reason. Not everyone agrees with that, and that is okay. That is just my personal belief from what I have experienced. Every friendship that has ended or began and is still going has proved me a lesson, and it has given me something to learn about and something that I can apply to moving forward. And friendships leave, dynamics shift. It's all normal, right? You're never gonna meet someone who's like, I've never had a friendship break up. And maybe they're blindsided a little bit, but overall most people experience it, and it's okay, and that's supposed to happen, because letting go of something doesn't always mean you have to hate it. It just means that you're growing apart and you're growing up, and there's always a way for you guys to find each other again. It is 100% possible. But I think that you have to learn that loss isn't always considered failure. And just because you lost someone that you thought was super close to you doesn't mean that you failed as a person to kind of provide a friendship or relationship or support that they needed. You just grew apart, and that again is totally, totally okay. And I think that the ones who stayed and the ones who left, which is the episode that I posted, it's a really good turning point, and I think something that a lot of people could potentially listen to if you are kind of in this limbo situation of, when do I leave, when do I stay. There's certain times where it's like, oh, my friend just going through something super hard, so I have an obligation to stay. Is that obligation coming out of the fact that you truly do care about them, or is that more of like a social thing? It's like, oh, if it seems like I'm staying with them while they're going through something hard, it's going to make me look like a better person. If that's kind of the reason why you're staying, then you shouldn't be staying. And you have to, again, kind of listen into yourself and see, is this something that I can apply myself to and truly be there for, and is this something that's helping me grow, or is it just something that's holding me back? I think you have to remember that, and always take into consideration that loss doesn't mean you are a bad person or you are failing. It just means that you're letting go because you're both growing. Okay, the next idea or lesson is that comparison quietly kills your confidence. Like we've talked about this so many times, social media has such a negative impact on teens and people, and this idea that you can think, oh, I know I'm actively comparing myself to this person, but it's not going to do anything to me. It's not going to change how I view myself. But then you're going to look at yourself a month, 2 months down the road, and if you look back and you reflect, you're going to have changed so much, because you are quietly killing your confidence. Every time you see something, you're actively saying, oh, I know I'm comparing, but let me continue doing it. That is going to absolutely destroy you. And I've had that experience. And I think being obsessed with the numbers and the appearance and the productivity and how well the engagement is doing it can be beneficial sometimes. For example, for this podcast, I love to see the numbers, I love to see who's listening from what countries. That is totally different than like seeing, oh, how many likes did my Instagram post get in a dress versus a bikini, and I should continue to post more of this content because I want more likes. I think that idea of the pressure and all of that combined will kill your confidence. And everyone is beautiful in their own way, right? The whole reason why I think there's this idea that, oh, like people who are overweight are ugly is because of social media, right? I don't think that at all, and I think everyone everyone is built for kind of who they are meant to be, and everyone is as beautiful as they are, and we shouldn't have to compare. We shouldn't have to use social media as a scale to be like, oh, if you look like this, then you're beautiful. If you look like this, you're not. I think that is stupid. I think we have to kind of get rid of that idea, but getting rid of that idea is super hard because it's been ingrained into our heads for such a long time. And I think that we should be focusing our perspective into depth. Like, who are you as a person? Kind of going back to the idea that, you know, people want honesty. People want an honest person in order to kind of grow. And if you are interacting with people who are honest and true about themselves, that can actually boost your confidence. And the comparison will actually be a good comparison. Like, oh, she's doing this, but I'm doing this, but we're still perfectly equal, and we're still both beautiful in our own ways, or we still both care about the environment, but we show it in different ways. Whatever you want, but it has to be positive. And I think that we should just stop comparing if we can. I know it's hard, I do it too sometimes, but you have to ingrain this idea that even if you know you're not comparing, you're still comparing yourself, unfortunately. And I think comparison doesn't really motivate. It actually like disconnects yourself from your body. There's that scene in one of the Marvel movies where like Doctor Strange punches Spider-Man, and Spider-Man like sees his body but he's like outside of the body. That's kind of how I envision people when they're comparing themselves. They're looking at this like skeletal figure, but it's not actually them because their mind has been shifted so much with social media. So yeah, social media is good and is bad. I can do a whole podcast episode on that as well. Okay, next is that boundaries are part of caring. I feel like sometimes people don't understand that you set boundaries in order to help protect that person and protect yourself. And it's really important to learn when not to respond and not to overtext. And I think you can help people without 100% like absorbing their pain or like trying to really figure them out. Some people just need to be alone, or some people don't realize that they need to be alone in order to grow, and that's really important. I think that's something that we should instill, because even if someone puts up a boundary with you, doesn't mean they hate you. It could be because they realize that you need to, or they need to pull away from you so that you can grow and be your best person. We sometimes hear people say, I broke up with my girlfriend or boyfriend because we were just drifting apart. That is kind of setting a boundary because you both want to see each other succeed, but you know that each other is the reason why you're unable to do it. So instead of kind of being in this distraught state of like, I want to do this, she wants to do this, but we're in a relationship together so we can't do it, I think instead you should set this boundary of like, okay, like we are going to break up, but we both want each other to succeed. And it's going to protect yourself, and it's going to make you and whoever you're protecting healthier and better people. Okay, next one is that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. We've talked about this before, but time alone leads to clarity, and everyone needs to have alone time. Even if you say that you're an extroverted person, every extroverted person needs their alone time, because alone time allows you to think and reflect. And if you don't think and reflect, you can't grow as a person because you don't know what to focus on to grow. I try to take like 10 to 15 minutes to just journal and like sit with myself so that I can kind of reflect and be like, okay, like this is what I did today, or how can I change my attitude or change my behavior to be a better person, and open myself up more. And I think that's really important. And sitting in silence is a bit discomforting to some people, but that helps you grow. And sitting in that discomfort will then usually lead to some sort of reflection, because it's like, if you're going to sit in silence, you might as well think about what you can do to grow as a person. And that will eventually change how you show up with other people, or how you perceive yourself, or how people perceive you, because you're taking time to reflect and change. And if you're always surrounding yourself with people and you think being lonely is weird, then you're not going to be able to grow as much, because again, you're not taking the time to reflect. So what those were kind of like my advice pieces. And what this year really changed about me, from January 1st 2025 to December 31st 2025, I've learned to be a lot more patient with myself and with others. I think I've always been pretty patient, but I worked on kind of understanding myself, and if I needed to take a break, I took a break. I used to be such a go-getter, and I would study for however many hours a day, but it wasn't helping. So I had to be more patient with myself, and when I learned to be more patient, I learned kind of how to study and how I can balance my life. And that kind of leads into the idea of being more grounded. I really grounded myself, and I focused on certain things in my life that I really wanted to grow, and everything else I kind of let go of. Certain people that I just knew that this friendship wasn't what I needed at the moment, right? Instead, I did other things, and I created other friendships that really helped me grow as a person. And that leads into my last thing that I've kind of learned, is like really focusing on intentionality. If I'm gonna spend the same 30 minutes hanging out with someone, I'd rather hang out with someone who makes me laugh and is super funny and I can have great conversation with, rather than someone who's just kind of there on their phone. And it's really reminded me to be intentional with my time, because my time is so important, and everyone else's time is also super important. So learning to be intentional is super important, and I'm definitely going to take that into college, and just life in general. And I think tying this all back to the idea of Tea Talk Central, I think my life has really changed with like the perspectives and the mindset shifts that I've had, and it's really allowed me to kind of open up and really like be my true self, no matter who's listening. If people from school are listening or watching, I've learned that it's okay for everyone to kind of be themselves, and opening myself up, I think, has helped other people too, even if I don't know it, and even if I can help one person, that would mean the world to me. And kind of looking into the future for New Year's resolutions, I just want to have less pressure on myself now that I'm in college. I want to have less pressure and more purpose. I really want to expand TTC, which is why I'm, starting these like video uploads, and I'm gonna start, uploading some new graphics and stuff, and you guys will see all that fun creative content coming out, because I want to have more purpose, because now I have less pressure from school. And I also want to kind of dive a bit more deep into certain topics. Going into college, I think the idea of like how to present yourself as a confident person, how to gain confidence in yourself, and there's so many ideas that I kind of have now, that I'm really excited to start posting in the new year. And the last one, as always, staying curious. I think staying curious, reading, and I think we need to start reading more books. I think AI is taking over, and people are not spending as much time reading a physical book. A physical book is it's something that's so fun, and I think more people need to start doing it again. So thank you guys so much for watching this video episode of Mia's Talks. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. I really like these, and I'm definitely going to continue. And in the next couple weeks, I'm going to be coming out with a college guide, and I will explain more what that is in the next video, so you're going to have to stay tuned to see what it's all about. But I love you guys so much, and stay healthy, stay safe. I hope everyone has an amazing holiday season. I love you guys, and I will see you in next week's episode and next week's other episode. Bye, guys.